सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. Welcome to this very important symposium that INDICA is organizing. In fact, I should say that we are excited to be organizing this symposium, and I would give the whole credit for the choice of this topic and the excitement that not only we the organizers and you the audience, everyone is having for taking up such a very important topic for discussion to our founder, Sri Harikiran Vadlamani garu. A few days ago, he came up with this topic. He gave the title Art and Science of Sutras. And just by looking at the title and the topic, I was completely excited and ecstatic. Because we organized many symposiums and conferences, but usually these topics are, most of it is already covered by others. We are focusing on some other topic, some other subtopic of the whole topic. But this particular topic of the technique of Sutras was not taken up by any time, I should say all over the world, either on the traditional side or on the modern side. So that is the reason for my excitement. As a formality that we usually follow, let me start by introducing our organization for those who are new. I don't think there are any. Most of you are very well acquainted with INDICA and its activities. As articulated by our founder, Harikiran Vadlamani garu, our vision, mission, strategy, and values are as follows. We are an institute for Indian knowledge systems. We envision the well-being of all beings. We believe the wisdom of Indian heritage fosters health, happiness, and harmony for humanity. We enable seekers of this wisdom fulfill their potential, passion, and purpose. Our strategy is multifaceted, multidisciplinary, and multi-horizon. We aim to preserve, protect, and promote our textual, experimental, and embodied knowledge traditions and heritage. The following 5 dimensions are of our strategy: mainstreaming Indian knowledge systems, transformative learning experiences, faculty development, cultural change maker fellowships, accelerator fund. Our core value is dharmic pluralism. We are guided by only one core value for all our actions, dharmic pluralism. While diversity and inclusion mainly focus on acknowledging and respecting differences and promoting tolerance and acceptance, pluralism emphasizes active engagement and dialogue. In a pluralistic society, diverse perspectives, values, and practices can coexist, communicate, and collaborate while maintaining their distinctiveness and autonomy. However, pluralism on its own does not fully capture all the other aspects that are essential to our mission. Any effort to advance pluralism should not be a mere intellectual exercise, but an embodied one. We believe that pluralism, when qualified with dharma, becomes a comprehensive core value that includes duty, gratitude, devotion, order, ethics, justice, etc., and captures the very essence of what we are striving for. All our actions will therefore be guided to advance dharmic pluralism. With that introduction to what we are and what we plan to do, I request all of you to go to our website, INDICA website, where you will be able to see greater details of our mission, and also all our activities are displayed on the website. All our units, you'll be able to see links to all the different units of INDICA there, and all the activities that INDICA organizes. We have been conducting conferences and symposiums both. Today's event is a symposium. In conferences, we include papers of people who are selected from a group of scholars who send their abstracts, and conference includes invited speakers and also these abstract-based selected paper presenters. It has pre-prepared papers by the presenters and also invited talks. Whereas this format, symposium, we are following as a format where we include only invited speakers. These are not paper presenters selected out of a group of scholars who send their abstract. So this is one of those symposiums, and we have a unit of ours called Center for Bharatiya Languages. Originally, we actually started off with a classical library, and now it is changed into a Center for Bharatiya Languages.
Bhasha Studies.
Center for Bhasha Studies. Sri Megh Kalyan Chandranji, please switch on your video, Meghji. Meghji headset. He is running this Center for Bhasha Studies. And this symposium is being organized from that particular platform. Sri Meghji is actually the organizer of this event. Now let us come to from Center for Bhasha Studies. We earlier organized symposiums on topics like Chandas and many other very, very important and crucial topics. But this particular topic is really a watershed topic, very important topic. So when we come to this specific symposium, as I was telling you, when Sri Harikiran Garu came up with this very interesting topic, then I was thinking whether we could get speakers for that topic or not, whether people have really thought about this topic or not. I started contacting various scholars. To my pleasant surprise, many scholars also found the topic to be very interesting, and they thought that they getting involved in this symposium and they contributing to this symposium is a very good opportunity for them. Particularly the younger scholars like Dr. Pawan Kumar, Sri Karthik Sharma ji, and Shivakumari Paturi ji, all these very young, brilliant scholars, I was so happy to see that they were excited at this proposal, and they were very eager to participate and contribute to this symposium. And we are very fortunate to have got uh, none other than Swamiji, Swami Advayanandaji, the head of the Chinmaya International Foundation, to have agreed to inaugurate this symposium with his speech. I'll be introducing Advayanandaji just before his talk, but our choice of Swamiji for inaugurating this symposium is because he has been teaching Brahma Sutras and the beauty of the Sutra composition by Shankara for many, many rounds of teaching he has already done. And he also published Chatusukti, part of Brahma Sutras, as a very big volume in behalf of CIF, Chinmaya International Foundation. So today is going to be an exciting day with a very big line of speakers touching upon various aspects of the theme, the Sutra composition. On my part, apart from welcoming all of you to this exciting discussion, I wanted to explain the concept of this symposium, what we thought when we were thinking of organizing this symposium. And in the concept note, we mentioned that Sutra works, a Sutra text, is a unique aspect of Indian knowledge systems. Whenever we use the word unique, what are we saying? This is a word coming from a comparative study of topics. So whenever we do comparison of comparable similar entities of a particular kind, when we find that this particular entity that we are focusing on has more distinct features than similarity, then we use the word unique. So when we say Sutra Paddhati is a unique Paddhati method or unique tradition. We did this. We have compared the Paddhati of Adhyayana study in various traditions of the world. One of the comparable traditions we have is, I think, among the ancient ones, the Greco-Roman tradition of academic studies is the one which is comparable. Those who look at Greco-Roman academic literature, the discussions there, they are rightly and justifiably are fascinated by the rigorous way those texts are written. Particularly, people are fascinated by the polemical way in which those books are written. And they talk about the thesis, antithesis, and synthesis way of the argumentation that is presented in those books. Of course, those of you who know the parallel Indian textual writing, particularly in the comparable disciplines, in the comparable Śāstra-s, in the comparable academic areas, know that this part has a similarity. Purva Paksha, Khandana, and Siddhanta are very similar to that. Unfortunately, in the schools and colleges and universities, where the professors fascinatedly introduce their students to the thesis, antithesis, and synthesis system in the Greek text, don't mention the Purva Paksha Khandana Siddhanta procedure of textual writing on the Indian side. Okay, that's happening for most of the Indian knowledge systems and the texts related to Indian knowledge systems, that the merits and beauties of this system are not being introduced to the school, college, and university students. This is also part of that, that they don't tell about this argumentational and polemical style of writing books. And the books are also, Greco-Roman literature is also known for its rigor in rationality, in reasoning and thinking, and all that. Whoever knows on the Sanskrit side, on the Vedic side, on the Indian side, not just Vedic, even Buddhist or Jain literature also, people know that the rigor with which these texts are written uh, is, if not comparable to that of Greco-Roman literature, it is even superior in many ways, the rigor with which these books are written. But when it comes to these distinct parts, contrasting aspects, one of the most contrasting and distinct aspects that is immediately identified, immediately noticed by anyone who comes to this textual tradition here is this sutra way of writing books. When you see, for example, the grammars of the Greek language, the grammars are the grammar in Greek is called technique grammatiki. It is it translates as the writing technique. So it is a manual to guide people about how to write. So it is in a manual style. How manuals are written, it is written in that way with guiding rules, guiding instructions, and all that. Or if you take the book Poetics by Aristotle, also, it is in the form of discussion statements, statements which are general, logical, rigorous discussions only, but it is in the form of discussions. The only comparable thing that we can see on the Greek side is uh, those who have anything to say, any comments, any questions, any responses, please use the Q&A box here. Please type your comments or questions in the Q&A box. We'll be able to see and respond there. I am able to see one hand raised from among the participants, so I said this. Please use the Q&A box. Okay, so the only comparable work that we can see when we talk of sutras is the Euclid's theorems. And actually, it so happened that the sutra system all of a sudden attracted attention during recent times in linguistics. It was because all of a sudden, when Noam Chomsky, a path-breaking, trend-setting, groundbreaking modern linguist, came up with this idea of linguistic theory, universal grammar, and as part of that, in his 57 paper, he came up with the proposal of what he called transformational generative grammar. And that grammar, which he proposed as a model for universal grammar, is a rule-based grammar. And it has got not just rules in a very coded form, in a very symbolic form, it also had rules about rule execution, principles about rule execution. And when those who know Sanskrit, both on the Western side and also on the Indian side, came to know about this particular transformational generative grammar. Today we are going to have a talk by Dr. Pawan Kumar with regard to this. He is going to cover the comparison between Panini's Ashtadhyayi and transformational generative grammar, the rules and the rule order methods in that. So when this happened, then people all of a sudden on both sides, on the Western side, on the Indian side, who know Panini and the Ashtadhyayi and the Sutra structure there, they immediately remembered Ashtadhyayi and started saying, hey, this is there already in Panini's system. And they even went to the extent of saying that probably Chomsky was inspired by Panini and they wrote to him. There was correspondence. It doesn't appear that he actually knew Panini. That is why he created. Probably it's a coincidence that he came up with a rule-based Panini's Ashtadhyayi-like rule-based grammar. So probably it was just a coincidence. Chomsky probably did not have any understanding. Namaste, Swamiji. Panini did not have a background in, Chomsky did not have a background in Panini, but that created a lot of interest in Panini's system. And then people came up with comparisons between Panini and Euclid. There are articles, publications which compare Panini's Ashtadhyayi and its Sūtra-s with Euclid's system of creating theorems for geometry. So what happens with regard to theorems is the only comparable part is that they are also in the form of short statements. And these short statements actually make facts, they articulate facts about the geometrical reality of geometry, and how people study these theorems is they come up with the proof for these statements. This is what is different in the Sutras. The no sutra on the Indian side is studied with the procedure of coming up with a proof for the theorem, the way Euclid's theorems are studied. When Euclid's theorems are provided with a proof, these proofs are logical procedures. A statement after statement is logically connected. And the proof starts with what is already accepted, an axiomatic understanding, and logically takes the student or the learner from one step to the other, and finally there is a hence proved. So the theorem is proved. When sutras are studied, that is not the way they are studied. The sutra is not given a proof. and the student or the teacher does not come up with an axiomatic statement and then come to hence. Actually, the hence part in this is most of the times part of the sutra itself. Most of the sutras are they end in Panchami Vibhakti in most of the Shastras, which is actually this Panchami Vibhakti here, the Panchami Vibhakti expression that we see in these sutras is the hence kind only. It is actually saying because of this, because of this reasoning. So the logic that is provided inside the proof when people talk about Euclid's theorems is incorporated inside the sutra itself. Sutra itself has the logic, the reasoning there. And when people compared Euclid to Panini, probably they were fascinated by the way a reality, whether it is linguistic reality, if it is Panini, and geometric reality in the case of Euclid, is so mathematically being articulated, only that much. But when you come to the sutra system, one thing that those who got fascinated by Panini and his Ashtadhyayi and its comparison to Noam Chomsky or to Euclid should know is that Panini was not an isolated case. The Sutra system in Panini was not an isolated case. All the other Shastras, starting from the Mimamsa Sutras of Jaimini and even up to the Chandas Sutra by Pingala or the Shulba Sutras dealing with the, again, comparably like Euclid, the geometrical aspects. There are several such Shastras which are in the form of Sutras. So those who get introduced to the rule system through Noam Chomsky or Euclid will be very much fascinated and will be interested to know that this system of rule-based text composition is part of a very broad system, widespread system within the Indian tradition that people composed these texts that way. Let me give you a few examples of how probably a sutra composer comes up with a sutra. One of the very popular examples that we can take from contemporary disciplines is from physics. There are laws, for example. People use words like first law of thermodynamics, the second law of thermodynamics. There is even the zeroth law of thermodynamics. These are all brief statements. And you have Newton's laws also, Newton's laws of motion. And there are statements like, people use words like postulates. And this word is used in reference to Dalton's atomic theory postulates. People use this word there. But when you look at statements like, say, for example, law of conservation, there is not a single law of conservation. There are multiple laws of conservation. Not just law of conservation of mass, there is law of conservation of energy, there is law of conservation of momentum, linear momentum and angular momentum. So if a Sutrakara on the Sanskrit side comes up with this kind of observation on his side that, oh, I'm able to see a momentum conserved, linear momentum conserved, angular momentum conserved, mass conserved, energy conserved, Then the Sutrakara type of mindset, what it says is that why should I keep saying every time that, oh, mass is conserved, energy is conserved, momentum is conserved, linear momentum is conserved. Let me just make a general statement that everything is conserved. Na sato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate satha. This is the statement from Bhagavad Gita, which uh, makes this generalization of conservation a very, very general observation. And then, if a Sutrakara looks at this statement also from Bhagavad Gita shlokas are from this system of textual composition. There is the Sutra system, there is a Vritti written, Vartika written to that, Bhashya written to that. But parallel to the Sutra type of composition, there is another composition of books called Karika based writing. Books are written in the form of Karikas. These Karikas are full shlokas. They are full verses. They are not these brief, concise statements or expressions that we find in Sutras. So Bhagavad Gita is almost in the form of those Karikas. So Nasato Vidyate Bhavaha Nabhavo Vidyate Sataha is that Karika kind of statement. So the Sutrakara, when he looks at this statement also, he thinks, why should I say Vidyate? And again, two times. Twice, why should I say Vidyate Vidyate? Let me just say Nasato Bhavaha, Nabhavo Sataha. And he reduces even that much amount of length of expression and reduces it to a very short expression. That is what we see in most of the sutras. When a verb is avoided, actually Sanskrit allows for that kind of equational sentences grammatically, verbless sentences are possible. And the verb is implied there. Vidyate or bhavati or asti kind of verbs can be substituted there. So the Sutrakara, what he does is he comes up with these statements like Nasato bhavaha, na bhavo sataha. This sutra is not there. I'm just creating it to give you an example of how sutras are composed. Because if there is a Sutrakara, how from laws of conservation, law of conservation of mass, law of conservation of energy, law of conservation of linear momentum, law of conservation of angular momentum, conservation of conservation of conservation. He gets bored and he says, no, why should I repeat all this? Let me come up with a very brief statement covering most of these cases, and then this Karika kind of statement, then Karika kind of statement also is brought up into a very concise form. That is how the Sutrakara comes up with the Sutra. So, for example, what probably was happening with Jaimini or Gautama when they were composing their sutras. Another thing that always strikes the mind of a Sutrakara is that he need not make a statement of an already known reality. That is why there has to be a distinction between Loka and Shastra. What is already known in the Loka need not have a Shastra. So if there is a Shastra being made, it need not be already a known Laukika understanding. Professor Varakhedi once, when we were conducting the research methodology workshop, he made this point very, very clear that his Nyaya Guru told him that if there is already a known fact, why should there be a Shastra for it? So the Sutrakara is providing you, for example, Maheshwaranji, one of the Shastra scholars, while he was talking about Brahma Sutras, he made a very remarkable statement that Brahma Sutras are wrongly thought out to be a very concise form of Vedanta Shastra. So Brahma Sutras are giving you Vedanta Shastra is what is thought out to be. He was arguing in that talk that Brahma Sutras are the methodology of interpreting Vedanta. The original source of Vedanta is not Brahma Sutras, it is Upanishad. It is the source of Vedanta called Upanishads, how to approach it. What is the methodology of approaching that is being provided in Brahma Sutra. In the same talk, Maheshwaranji argues that the system started with Jaimini itself. Mimamsa Sutras are also a book of interpretative methodology. And today people have recognized that. Mimamsa Sutras are hermeneutics, a book of hermeneutics. So it is an interpretative methodology book. So the sutras there, they are not making any generalization like that of physics or like that of geometry in Euclid's theorems. It is a methodology book. So it is the sutras, the concise expressions that are used are in fact talking about the methodology of understanding the texts that do the chodana of dharma. So throughout the word chodana is repeated in Mimamsa Sutras, and it begins with Athato Dharma Jignasa. So this is another beauty that these books start with the word Jignasa, whether it is Dharma Jignasa or Brahma Jignasa. So when you are looking at that word Dharma or Brahma there, the entire sutra system comes back every time to that Dharma or Brahma. So in the case of Mimamsa Sutras, all the sutras are talking about Dharma Chodana and how this Dharma Chodana is happening from the mantras is what is being talked about. And that creates a challenge to the writer of the book or the Sutrakara. So the challenge is that you have the mantras are in the form of stotras, praising statements, eulogy statements. So how can a praising statement be an instructional statement? Chodana has to be done, should happen through instructional statements. So how a Stuti Vakya can become a Vidhi Vakya, how to connect a Stuti to Vidhi, that methodology of hermeneutics is being written in the form of an entire text, which is in the form of those brief statements. So the same thing happens in Brahma Sutras also, that Badarayana is also doing the same. But he is taking Brahma as the topic. So how Brahma Chodana happens, how the Vedanta texts called Upanishads, they are driving you towards Brahman. So that is what is being given there. So when you go to Nyaya Sutras also, if what is already known in the world is given in the form of sutras, what is the whole purpose? What is the whole fun in talking about those known facts? So when a padartha is created, that padartha does not exist in the world. Padartha is only a shastric category. That is what Nayayikas also very strongly believe, that all their categories, concepts, have to be only Shastric category. They need not exist already known in the world. And Sutrakara does this, whether it is Mimamsa Sutras or Brahma Sutras or Nyaya Sutras or whichever sutras are composed, the Shastrakara, the Sutrakara is coming up with the Shastric categories, Shastric concepts. And for that he comes up with a Sanya, technical term. And there is, for the Sanya, a paribhasha is given, a definition to the Sanya is given. And some part of the text, a significant part of the text is dedicated to this Sanyas and paribhashas that are given inside the book. Most of the sutra books cover the list of Sanyas and their paribhashas, but there is no sutra which tells you, oh, these are the Sanyas that are going to come up. So the student of the sutra text has to identify that these are the Sanyas that are used inside the text, and these are the paribhashas. And the sutra text is most of the time self-sufficient in providing those, whether directly or indirectly, the paribhasha for the sanya. And using those sanyas without any mutual contradiction, with a very strict cross-referentiality of these sutras, the sutra text is composed in such a way that categories are used only as the building blocks of the sutra composition. And then the observations, the statements of, say, for example, if it is hermeneutics in Mimamsa, the methodological instructions that are given, the sanyas only form the building blocks, but the logic behind the interpretative methodology comes every time in the form of those Panchami Vibhakti statements at the end of most of the sutras. Compared to the other sutra texts, Mimamsa Sutras have longer statements many times, very long statements. Jaimini does not hesitate to use words like tu or cha or any other statement, and wants to be very clear in his statements. So he at times compromises with the concise nature of his statement. But gradually, when you go to the other sutras like Vaisheshika Sutras or Nyaya Sutras, the insistence on the brevity of sutra composition went on increasing, and the composers of sutras achieved the zenith of it in the form of such a brevity. And those who enjoy this, see, it is the economy of expressions that is enjoyed in poetry also, but that is a different kind of economy. And in Shastra also, if you are really a good student of science or scientific understanding, you definitely enjoy the rigor in the form of concise nature, brevity of statements. So when you look at these textbooks of physics and chemistry, please don't get carried away. They are textbooks. They are meant for your own understanding of the material. But when Newton wanted to compose his book, he called it Principia, principles, Principia Mathematica Naturalis. But that book is not as concise as we are talking about in the form of sutras, but definitely he was also aiming at the brevity only. So those who are fascinated by that brevity in all the technical writings, technical composition anywhere in the world, when they come to Indian system of this sutra way of writing, if they are wholehearted, they would definitely admire the zenith of that brevity and zenith of that cross-referentiality inside the sutras, the extreme level of incorporating logic through Panchami Vibhakti expressions inside the sutras, and that very well knit way of writing books with self-sufficiency and organic nature of a sutra text. So what is the background of a sutrakara before doing this differs from Shastra to Shastra. For example, for Jaimini, Brahmanas and Aranyakas would have guided him. Those sections of Brahmanas and Aranyakas which deal with the karma part and dharma part would have guided him. And when it comes to Brahma Sutras, Badarayana probably was guided by the Upanishadic part of the Brahmanas and Aranyakas. That doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that the Sutrakara all of a sudden comes from the blue and gives you the Sutra. For that matter, even in the case of Panini, we should say that there was a lot of observational activity, Prayoga Sharanaha Vaiyakaranaha. So, without the study of Prayogas, Panini would not have come. But of all that, how he develops a sutra is a procedure that we are interested in today. And today we are going to have a very big line of scholars who are going to talk about some of them only on the composition side and some of them on the execution side of the sutra creation and sutra use in various Shāstra-s.